Freshness matters in tea so much more than most people realize in the West. So much so that in fact in Japan, for instance, green tea is usually sold with an expiry date. Now the reason for the difference between Asia and the West is that in the West, we actually didn't know for a long time what good quality tea was. We weren't really exposed to it. And in fact, the tea that the Asians sold to the European and the North American markets was the lowest quality tea that they had. But we didn't know the difference, and so that's what we became used to. And in fact, we became used to low quality tea as well as tea that's quite stale. And it's part of the reason that we don't really think of tea as being something that loses its healthful benefits or loses its properties over time, but it certainly does. And it's the same thing with tea or herbs or food. So for instance, if we look at something like olive oil loses its antioxidants over time. And in the case of tea, we get a decline in the antioxidant value of the tea, and we also lose some of the flavor that we get from really lovely fresh tea, and it can become more bitter. So the antioxidants are a really critical component that's linked to freshness. For ideal health benefits for green tea, you want to usually consume your green tea within about 6 months of purchase if you've purchased it at Silk Road. Studies indicate that much of the tea is actually stale before it even leaves Asia. And the reason for that is because tea is not handled properly during the manufacture process. So tea can become stale even before it's left the factory if it's not handled properly. And there are several things that go into ensuring tea is fresh and high quality. So for instance, hand-picked tea, which is more labor-intensive to produce, is usually much higher quality because when you're hand-picking, you're able to select really high-quality leaves and really young leaves. If the tea is machine-picked, it's really hard for the machine to tell the difference between the high-quality leaves and the lower-quality leaves, and the leaves get damaged even at the very beginning during picking. As well, you're not getting the highest quality leaves that are being selected. Now on top of that, at the manufacturing standpoint, when the tea leaves are being dried, if they're not actually being handled gently, what will happen is that they're being crushed. As soon as you expose a leaf to air, it actually starts to lose its antioxidant value. And again, the same thing happens to other things like herbs and spices as well. As soon as you start to expose them to air, their antioxidant value and their flavor starts to decline. Freshness is critical to all types of tea, but green tea in particular is very, very sensitive to issues around freshness. It declines in antioxidants more rapidly than other types of tea. Black tea has a longer shelf life, but for ideal health benefits and flavor, you still want to actually consume within about a year of purchase if you're buying it from us and when it's already very fresh to start out with. Oolong tea usually has a shelf life somewhere between green and black tea. So about the midway point there. The only type of tea that it's actually suitable to age is pu'er tea. Because it undergoes a unique post-fermentation process, it's actually designed to age and it continues to lightly ferment even after you've purchased it. And that's the one tea where actually aging is a good thing. Otherwise, you're losing flavor and antioxidants as soon as the tea is aged. Another way to think about it is it's almost like drinking expired vitamins. You're not getting the nutrient value that you should be from your tea. One of the really fascinating health benefit studies on green tea in particular is they've discovered that in Japan, green tea drinkers actually have a DNA that's on average 5 years younger than the general population. And this lines up with a lot of studies on the health benefits of green tea and the anecdotal traditional uses for green tea and their association with longevity in Asian culture. And what actually happens is that it prevents cellular damage and aging when you drink green tea. But it's important to note when we look at all these health benefit studies in Asia that they're drinking fresh green tea, not like the tea that normally is available in the West. And so for that reason, it's very, very important to drink fresh tea.